Hi everyone, my name is Dominic, and I've been suffering with a little bit of a problem. Now this is something that takes up all of my thought process. It's constantly in my mind, constantly in my brain, and I can't get it out. I have an obsession that I've had for years since my childhood, and that obsession is with Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. I know, it's crazy, I'm insane, but like, I can't stop thinking about these games, I can't stop talking about these games, and now they're coming out again as a port on Switch 2, so I'm just gonna talk about them even more. But in a surprising plot twist, that's not the point of today's video. I recently made a video where I talked about having an entire game dedicated to Pokemon contests and just designing what I think that would look like, and I had a really fun time doing that. And so I thought it would also be really fun to take some games that I love, like Pokemon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness, and give them a new game to the series just to give myself something more to talk about and make these games no longer just a duo, but a trilogy. That's right, y'all. In today's video, I am going to be looking at stuff from Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness and mashing it all together into a third game in the series that I'm going to be calling Pokemon Rising Shadows. I've put a lot of thought into this. I've done a lot of journaling. I've done a lot of writing down. I've been on Wikipedia just scrolling through all the information, piecing it together, and how this would actually work. Now, of course, these are all just thoughts that are coming from my brain. These are all things that I thought up myself. This is in no way, shape, or form an actual game that is happening, I assure you of that. I don't think that Pokemon would be interested in continuing the storyline of Colosseum or XD. I'm just happy that we're getting the games point blank, period. I just wanted to make this video for fun today and see if they did make another game to the series, what exactly would it look like to take place after XD Gale of Darkness and continuing on that storyline. If you are excited to hear what a new game in this series would look like and are also a fan of Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness, head down below and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to check out more content of mine, because if you are a fan of these games, I guarantee you, I think I talk about it in almost every single video I make at this point. But here are some of my ideas of what a possible third game in the series continuing on from XD Gale of Darkness would look like. All of these ideas are completely self-made. They're just a part of my own French vanilla fantasy going on inside my head. I'm making this up as I go. These are all ideas that I would just love to see if they made another entry. I think both of these games were super fun, fresh, and original, and introduced a lot of new and exciting things that Pokemon fans really enjoyed, and there was a dark, edgy vibe to them that a lot of Pokemon games don't normally have. So I would love to see this series get another entry, to make a return, and to see something of this vibe and aesthetic come back on our screen. I think this game definitely would need that dark and edgy vibe that we come to expect in the Orre region, and I think that that's one of the best things about this series and why I love it so much. Is I think whenever Pokemon dabbles in like the creepy, the scary, the more intense, the more serious, they actually do it quite well, and it's one of my favorite things. We open up, of course, on the Orre region where both our games take place, and we are going to continue on in this region a couple of years down the line after our previous journey from XD Gale of Darkness. Now, there was a bit of a time difference of a couple of years between Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness, and so we're going to continue that trend with there being another time skip ahead for Rising Shadows. There was a lot of differences and improvements from Colosseum to XD Gale of Darkness, such as the Purification Chamber and just adding more types of Shadow Pokemon for you to use, and so I think that Rising Shadows would double down on that and introduce even more things that would improve these features of life. In XD Gale of Darkness, we saw the improvement from Colosseum of wild Pokemon spots opening up where you can find wild Pokemon, which you originally couldn't find in Colosseum, as the Orre region doesn't really have a lot of wild Pokemon or even its own Pokemon League or gym challenge. We more have a bunch of battle facilities around the region in the forms of stadiums and Colosseums, but we see the Orre region is growing and developing with a lot more wild Pokemon coming, so why not with this growth and change could we not grow to maybe having a gym challenge? The Orre region in XD Gale of Darkness is shown to be growing and changing and developing, adding in wild Pokemon with more trainers coming around, the more selling of Pokeballs. So what if one of the main plots of this game was the further development of the Orre region to have its very own gym challenge and Pokemon League? We've already seen it done in Pokemon Sun and Moon, where we pretty much established the Pokemon League and became its very first champion, so why can't we do the same for the Orre region? And that would bring so much more to the the region, not only in more trainers to compete and trainers to just be around in general, but also more settlements, more towns, more places. I mean, if there's more people, you're gonna need more places for those people to be. So I can see an expansion of the region, as we saw from Colosseum to XD Gale of Darkness, with a lot more locations, a lot more places to visit, but more towns, more cities, just more places in general to explore. So just to set the scenery for Rising Shadows for this new version of the Orre region, I see an expansion. I see a lot more places to go, a lot more people, a lot more wild Pokemon, and instead of the Orre region feeling like this giant, expansive, out-of-the-way desert, it actually starts feeling like its own, more founded place. I also envision and can see this being something along the lines of like the Battle Frontier being established. Just another new place for Pokemon trainers to journey towards and continue their adventure with something new and a new challenge. As for who I envision our main character of this journey to be, I think that we should have the main character be the child of Wes and Rui from the very first Pokemon Colosseum game. Not only do I think this would be really cool to see the return of these characters from Pokemon Colosseum, but I think it would make total sense because a lot of retired trainers settle down in Agate Village, which would be them at this point in their lives, especially considering that Rui's grandparents live there. But of course, as we are part of this universe and this region and this series, you can expect the return of Cipher and Shadow Pokemon at some point, and so we're gonna need some way to identify these Pokemon, and I think with our main protagonist being the child of Rui would also have the ability to see the shadow aura around these Pokemon, and that'd be a really cool way of integrating that into the storyline. As for our XD characters, I can see Professor Crane taking up the mantle of Pokemon Professor of the region and giving out starters to new aspiring trainers, just like he did with Michael at the start of his adventure by giving him Eevee. I forget where I read it, but I did read somewhere that Michael just obtaining his Eevee from Professor Crane and obtaining it in this way was kind of akin to getting a starter Pokemon at the beginning of a journey, and did kind of symbolize that the Orre region was developing into a place for aspiring trainers. So whether or not they currently had a gym challenge or not, it was somewhere where someone would at least want to start their journey. I think it would also be a really cute and fun detail if Jovi, your little annoying blue-haired sister from XD Gale of Darkness, is grown up now and is the assistant to Professor Crane, just like your mom is in XD Gale of Darkness. I would love to see a bunch of characters from the older titles featured in prominent ways and giving them prominent roles. That being said, what more of a prominent role than the champion of this new region, and I think that the perfect example of this would be Michael. Our protagonist Michael from XD Gale of Darkness was already shown to have a strong love for battling and a prowess for battling, being really good at it, taking down his own evil organization, and I think that he would also be more interested in the title of champion than Wes would be, and so I think this would be a fantastic way to feature Michael in the game. I see Michael being very involved in the plot. I love a champion that is involved in the storyline, is constantly helping you, and is involved in the game, and might even be involved in fighting Cipher or the evil team in the game, and I can definitely see Michael doing that. So I think he's a perfect candidate for champion. So in this new game, I kind of see two different storylines happening at the same time, which is one, of course, fighting Cipher and taking them down and getting rid of all the shadow Pokemon, but the other being just establishing this new gym challenge and Orre just figuring out where exactly it wants to go for the future. The Orre region already has a lot of fantastic Colosseums and places where these gym challenges could be held, such as Fennec and Pyrite, Mount Battle, the Under, and I can absolutely see Realgum Tower being the place where you hold the Elite Four and Champion fight. So there's already plenty of places throughout the region that could be featured for gym towns, but also we could have some new towns as well featured. As we start out our new journey, I think that the starter choice from Professor Crane could either be the set of Hoenn starters to reference Generation 3 when these games came out. We could get a group of 3 starters like the Legend series that are from different regions all over to symbolize that new trainers from different regions are kind of flocking to the Orre region for the new gym challenge. Or we could do what we just did in XD Gale of Darkness and we could just get our choice of evolution. I think any of these 3 options are great and I'd be okay with any of the 3 of them. But we start out our journey, and as we are going through our adventure, we start to notice that Cipher has re-emerged and shadow Pokemon, of course, are on the rise again, but we don't quite know who's leading them. But Cipher would absolutely take an opportunity for a new rising gym challenge and a lot more trainers and people coming to the region as a great opportunity to keep the shadow Pokemon program going. Michael, who is now older and no longer fits the Snag Machine, as it is this tiny little device that couldn't fit on Gonzap's arm, so it sure is not going to fit on Michael's grown-up arm either. And so Michael passes down this older version of the Snag Machine to our protagonist so we can go and capture all the new shadow Pokemon for ourselves and stop Cipher in their tracks. Now notice how I haven't talked about Team Snag'em and their involvement in the game. The way that I view Team Snag'em is kind of the way that I view Team Yell in at the end of Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, we see that they're more allies for their own kind of goal. They got their own stuff going on, they're certainly not the best people in the world, but I definitely think they're less evil than Cipher, and so I would love to see Team Snag'em be more of an ally in this game to you as well, maybe assisting in the snag machine, maybe upgrading it, assisting with Professor Crane every now and then, but still not being completely good guys. Who knows, maybe even Gonzap could make a turnaround and be a gym leader. Speaking of potential gym leaders, I think there are absolutely plenty of characters to choose from and characters that would be eligible and great in these positions of new gym leaders. We already had Justy, who is pretty much a gym leader anyway, so Justy is absolutely going to be the gym leader of Fennec. Other people that I think would potentially be great gym leaders would be Duking and Pyrite. I mean, he already runs the Colosseum there, so I think he'd be a fantastic choice. And funnily enough, I could absolutely see them making Mir B a gym leader because, I mean, it's Mir B. Mir B has to be featured in some way, shape, or form, and from what I read, Mir B ends up in the Krabby Club just dancing his days away. So what I think would be really funny is if Mir B ends up transforming the Krabby Club and Gaetion Port into his own gym challenge where it's like this giant discotheque. I don't know, it makes sense in my mind, and I think it'd be a really silly and fun way to feature Mir B, but also give him a very prominent role, showing that he's not evil anymore per se, but he is still seeking power as he wants to be one of the best gym leaders out there. Maybe even the strongest in the region. I just envision maybe Mir B tried to take the gym challenge himself, but just couldn't beat Michael, who's champion, and so he's been delegated to gym leader. I just think that'd be really, really fun. Of course, in the gym battles, we would see the return of a lot of these double battle strategies that we see in Pokemon Colosseum. They went away a little bit in XD Gale of Darkness, but I would love to see these battle strategies make a return. I mean, the Protect and Earthquake strats, the Sunny Days, the Rain Dances, like all these strategies of double battles that you would expect, I would love to see make a return for some of these gym challenges. And I think it would really set this region apart and make its own journey and gym challenge feel like its own. Imagine every single gym battle feeling like Tate and Liza. Of course, I can also see the return of characters like Dr. Kaminko and Chobin, and I think that we would need to see the return of Robo Groudon and Robo Kyogre, but would be even better is if we got to see Robo Rayquaza. We never got to see a Robo Rayquaza or what that would do, but we did get to see Robo Kyogre, and that it would take us to Citadark Isle, and it was good for traversing the seas, so I would love to see a Robo Rayquaza be really good for traveling throughout this expanded Orre region and taking us to new locations that we wouldn't have been able to visit before on our scooter or motorcycle, but now that we have air transport, we can get to more places. So I think that'd be a really fun way of seeing Dr. Kaminko return and just giving us this new upgraded way of travel. Now, of course, diving back into our evil team, Cipher, what exactly would their plan and plot that we have to stop in the game be? What I can see being the plot of this game is actually journeying back to something that we did in Pokemon Colosseum by mentioning Celebi. I think that Celebi would be the title Pokemon of this game and would be the box art legendary, or I guess mythical in this case, and would be the most important Pokemon that Cipher is trying to take control of. We established that Celebi is a part of the purification ritual at the Purification Stone over in Agate Village, and I think that Cipher would keep an eye on this and really would want to take control of Celebi, realizing that it helps with the purification of Shadow Pokemon, and so getting Celebi out of the way and trying to make a Shadow Celebi, or at least taking away its ability to purify Pokemon, would be one of their top priorities, and so I think featuring Celebi in this way would be really, really interesting. So with Celebi being the main legendary, I think, speaking of legendaries, it would also be really cool to see the return of Ho-Oh and Lugia, which were the prominent legendaries from Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness, make their return to maybe assist our protagonist in trying to get Celebi back. This might be more of a stretch concept of having two whole legendaries assisting our main character, but I don't know, I think it'd be really cool to see the return of them. Maybe even the return of Shadow Lugia, who knows? I don't know, anything's possible in this game, it's completely made up. It's pretty much a known trend at this point that the main villain of the Colosseum and XD games was always someone in disguise, was always someone hiding their real identity, like Greevil and Evis. Who exactly could I see being the main lead villain of Rising Shadows that is someone who is rising from the shadows, someone who has a reasonable explanation for why they would want to rekindle Cipher's evil schemes and plans? I could see it being Ein. Now, for those who don't remember, Ein is the one who is actually in charge of creating the Shadow Pokemon in the lab, and I think that this would be a really great reason to reuse Ein's character, and it would also be perfectly reasonable. I mean, he's the one who was creating the Shadow Pokemon, and so having him be the main main villain to remake the Shadow Pokemon. I just think it all works in my head, and I can totally see him being this hidden villain. Because out of any of the evil characters that we've experienced in the Pokemon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness games, I definitely think that Ein would not all of a sudden just be fine being a good guy, or just let all of these plans that he's been experimenting on for the longest time just go. He's definitely not gonna let it go. I think that another awesome thing about these games potentially would be their connectivity to Pokemon Home and to Pokemon Go, and in Pokemon Go, I actually just recently learned, because I picked up Pokemon Go and I finally play it. Yes, I know, it took me forever, but it's there. I made a whole video talking about how I'm into it now. But there are Shadow Pokemon in Pokemon Go, and I think that this would be a really fun and interesting way to include the Shadow Pokemon from Pokemon Go, and you could maybe transfer them over to Pokemon Rising Shadows, and this is another way that you could purify them, if anything, maybe a little easier than having to get candy in Pokemon Go, or maybe you could take a Shadow Pokemon from Rising Shadows and connect it to Pokemon Go and purify them from there. I don't know, I just think it would be a really cute and fun and interesting way to connect something like Pokemon Go, which is so big, has so many players around the world, to a new game like this, and Shadow Pokemon are something that everybody's kind of familiar with at this point because of these games and Pokemon Go now having them, so I just think it'd be a cute little way to connect them. And of course, the ending of our game would be saving Celebi from becoming a Shadow Pokemon itself, purifying all the Shadow Pokemon from this revamped Cipher, and taking its new leader Ein down, but also becoming the new champion of the region, finally beating out Michael and taking his champion title, and he is fully supportive of you the entire time. So not only do we take down Cipher for a third time and them trying to bring back Shadow Pokemon, stop trying to make Shadow Pokemon happen, Cipher, they're not gonna happen, but also we completely reinvent the Orre region, establish a Pokemon Gym Challenge and League, and you become its new champion in Michael's stead. So that is all I have for you guys today in what I would like to see from a possible sequel, trilogy, new game into the series, whatever you'd like to call it, for Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Colosseum if there was another entry. Let me know down in the comment section below if you liked or enjoyed any of these gimmicks or concepts or ideas that I have for this new type of game, and definitely let me know as well if there was another entry into this series, what would you like to see from it? Do you have any ideas that you'd like to add on to this, or did you like any of the ideas that I presented? Definitely let me know, because you know that I am no stranger. It is no secret to wanting to just talk about this game all the time. Y'all who know me well enough know that I will take every single opportunity to rant and rave about these games. Also, side note, definitely let me know if you would like to see more videos like this and like my contest one where I talk about possible new games into the Pokemon series, just developing ideas for them and talking about what they would look like. I had a lot of fun making this video and a lot of fun making the contest video as well. I just have a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I would like to see in the Pokemon series, and for things that I think need a little bit more attention, need a little bit more love, and I had a lot of fun. So definitely let me know if you did as well and would like to see any more videos like this one. As always, thank y'all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see y'all in the next video. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go check online to see when Pokemon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness are actually getting released onto the Switch 2 GameCube Classics, because I keep looking up a date and there just isn't one. I've been starved for crumbs all these years, and you finally give me a little piece, a little crumb on a plate, and I just can't even have that. When are they dropping?